Hi everyone, I hope you're keeping yourself safe and well. I'm sure you're all missing your employability work lessons, so let's get started. Today we're going to focus on health and safety in the workplace. Okay, this form shows you how many people are killed every week at work, and this is according to the Health and Safety Executive. If you look further down in the red writing, it has some problems that are quite simple. Identifying hazards, assess risks, implement control measures, monitor what has happened, provide information and training. So using these principles, most problems can be addressed and conditions improved. So then we move to question 1. Why is health and safety in the workplace important? So you've already read that accidents happen every year. How can these impact on people's life? Think about, say, somebody you know, they may have children. If they have an accident in the workplace, this could result in a loss of money. Second question, who's responsible for health and safety in the work? Well, I think it's, everybody.
Get burnt out then.
Right, so going back to question 3, can you give examples of health and safety rules that you have to follow at school maybe? So you could think about no smoking inside the building, making sure that you wash your hands after using the toilet to avoid spreading of germs, when you're in cookery, using the bridge method to avoid cutting your fingers, things like that. Okay, let's go over to the next page. So these are called welfare provisions. So it covers all aspects of the working environment. So you've got a list here. So maintenance of the workplace, equipment, ventilation, which means you're able to breathe fresh air, the temperature indoor workplaces, lighting, cleanliness, waste materials, and the list goes on. And question 1 states, make a list of welfare provisions at school. So if you think about at school, we have blinds in the windows to avoid any heat to your face from the sun. We have windows to stop the room from getting too warm. We have comfortable seating. We have everything cleaned and so on. Let's go on to the next list. Should be paid. Online. Next, we have responsibilities. Who's responsible for each of the following in the workplace? So carrying out a risk assessment of the workplace. Now, we do have a health and safety officer who carries out risk assessments, so there's a clue. Wearing any protective equipment provided. If you're in cookery, what do you wear? How do you keep yourself safe? There's a clue. Telling the employee of the risks within the workplace. Well, that ensuring the work placement is suitable for the employee. So your employee is responsible for this to make sure that you are safe. But if you're in school, it'd be your school, and the list goes on. So at the bottom, it says lack. So L stands for look. Look at what hazards are in the workplace. A for access, the risk prior in placement being made. C for control, control the risk after identification and assessment. And K for key, steps to identify risk to health and safety. Let's move on to the next sheet. This is a lot more straightforward, less writing to read, so let's go. So on here we've got hazards, risk and harm. So you have an image of an office, you've got 3 people, lots of things are happening. So before you actually get involved in the picture, what is a hazard? So think to yourself, a hazard. What is a risk? What is a harm? If you're unsure of this, you can Google it. So you're allowed to cheat on those. So let's get to the picture. Place your hazard triangles on the danger areas in the picture or put a circle around them. I'd say put a circle. So you can see the guy, he's carrying boxes. Can you see in front of him what's on the floor? How about the lady at the desk? That funny looking thing under the table's a radiator. The lady stood on a chair. He's boiling a kettle on top of a filing cabinet. Is that safe? At the bottom it says, give examples of the harm these can cause. So what harm could tripping over cause? What harm could falling cause? What harm could burning cause? Okay, let's move on to the next sheet. I'm doing alright so far. Again, a nice straightforward sheet. Place your hazard triangles, well let's go for circles again, on the danger areas in the picture. So this is a different working area. This looks like a warehouse. People are wearing their boiler suits. There's signs saying hard hat area, fire exit, no smoking. So have a look at the picture. So there's lots of things happening. I can see people smoking, carrying heavy barrels. They can't see in front of them. Is anyone wearing a hard hat? Who knows? You'll be able to tell in the image. Look on the floor as well. There's lots of things happening on the floor. So then all you have to do after that is give examples of the harm they can cause. So if somebody slipped on the wet floor, if someone's not wearing the hard hat, if someone's smoking, think about what's around the guy who's smoking. There's barrels, there could be petrol in there, there's cardboard boxes, they could set a light. Okay, let's move to the next sheet. Am I doing okay?
Yeah, good stuff.
Trying to not get tongue-tied. Next, we're on risk assessments. So what is risk assessment? A risk assessment is simply a careful examination of what in your work or school could cause harm to people, so that you can weigh up whether you have taken enough precautions or should do more to prevent harm. Workers and others have the right to be protected from harm caused by failure to take responsible control measures. Complete a risk assessment of your work area. So we're not in work and you were in school. So you could think about an area in school, maybe the toilets, the dining room, the gym, maybe the cookery room, the science room. And you've got to identify the hazards. So what, the hazards that could cause harm. So then you're going to do a risk severity. So you could do 1, a little bit of risk. 5 would be the worst, where it could cause death. And then in the final column you've got the action. So what could be done, what could be put in place to minimise the risk. Now I used an example before, which was the bridge method in cookery. So to reduce the risk of cutting your fingers or even chopping them off, using the bridge method with your fingers tucked in under your knuckles will reduce the risk of losing a finger. Let's go to the next sheet. Housekeeping. So why should we pay attention to housekeeping at work? Well, you could think about in your bedroom as well. I'm sure some of you could do a bit of housekeeping. At home, we tidy up, we make sure things are safe. We do this to reduce the risk of an accident. And we know this, if you left an iron out, left switch on, we could end up burning ourselves. If you leave sharp knives out and you have young children, they could harm themselves. So effective housekeeping can eliminate some workplace hazards and help get a job done safely and properly. Poor housekeeping can frequently contribute to accidents by hiding hazards that cause injuries. If the sight of paper, debris, clutters and spills is accepted as normal, then other more serious health and safety hazards may be taken for granted. So look at the guy in the picture. His office is an absolute pigsty. There's files on the floor, notes everywhere, files aren't straight. At the bottom it says create a list of housekeeping tasks needed for your workspace on a daily basis. So Pretend that you're working in a classroom. You could be working from home, or even just think about when you've had some experience at college, or when you've worked in the kitchen, or even in the science lab. So to create a safe working place, make sure you've got a nice clean desktop. Make sure you've got a elbow space. Is it safe to be sat at your workstation? Make sure things are in neat order, things like that. Let's move on to the next sheet.